Hello, good day. My name is Novili Egadnanan, and my assigned topic is about hemostasis specimen management. So let's start. What is hemostasis? It is the mechanism that leads to cessation of bleeding from a blood vessel. And what is hemostasis responsible for? To prevent hemorrhage by arresting and keeping the blood within the damaged vessel wall. So, hemostasis specimen storage and temperature. Sodium citrate anticoagulated whole blood specimens are placed in a rack and allowed to stand in a vertical position with the stopper intact and uppermost. The pH remains constant as long as the specimen is sealed. So specimens are maintained at 18 degrees Celsius to 24 degrees Celsius at the ambient temperature, never at refrigerator temperatures. So storage at 1 to 6 degrees Celsius activates factor 7, destroys platelet activity through uncontrolled activation, and causes the cryoprecipitation of large von Willebrand factor multimers. Also, specimens should never be stored at temperatures greater than 24 degrees Celsius because heat causes deterioration of coagulation factors 5 and 8. For hemostasis specimen storage time, specimens collected for PT testing may be held at 18 to 24 degrees Celsius and tested within 24 hours of the time of collection. Specimens collected for PTT or partial thromboplastin time testing also may be held at 18 to 24 degrees Celsius, but they must be tested within 4 hours of the time of collection, provided that the specimen does not contain unfractionated heparin anticoagulant. If the patient is getting unfractionated heparin therapy, specimens for partial thromboplastin time testing must be centrifuged within 1 hour of the time of collection, and the plasma, which should be PPP, must be tested within 4 hours of the time of collection. Preparation of hemostasis specimens for assay. First is the whole blood specimen used for platelet aggregometry. So blood for whole blood platelet aggregometry or LUMI aggregometry must be collected with 3.2% sodium citrate and activity. Aggregometry should be started immediately and must be completed within 4 hours of specimen collection. So the practitioner mixes the specimen by gently inversion, checks for clots just before testing, and rejects specimen with clots. Most specimens for whole blood aggregometry are mixed 1:1 with normal saline before testing. Although, if the platelet count is less than 100,000 per microliter, the specimen is tested undiluted. Second is the platelet-rich plasma specimens used for platelet aggregometry. Light transmittance, or the optical platelet aggregometers, are designed to test platelet-rich plasma, or the PRP, with a platelet count of 200,000 to 300,000 per UL. So the sodium citrate anticoagulated blood is first checked visually for clots and then centrifuge at 50 xg for 30 minutes with the stopper in place to maintain the pH. The supernatant PRP is transferred by a plastic pipette to a clean plastic tube, and the tube is sealed and stored at 18 degrees Celsius to 24 degrees Celsius until the test is begun. So the PRP-based light transmittance aggregometry is initiated no less than 30 minutes after the specimen is centrifuged and completed within 4 hours of the time of collection to produce sufficient PRP. The original specimen must measure 9 to 12 ml of whole blood. So the light transmittance aggregometry is unreliable when the patient's whole blood platelet count is less than 100,000 per UL. The third is platelet poor plasma required for clot-based testing. So clot-based plasma coagulation test require PPP plasma with a platelet count of less than 10,000 per UL. So the sodium citrate anticoagulated whole blood is centrifuged at 1,500 xg for 15 minutes in a swinging bucket centrifuge to produce supernatant PPP. Alternatively, the angle head stat spin express 2 generates 4,400 xg and can produce PPP within 3 minutes. So both make it possible for automated coagulometers to sample from the supernatant plasma of the primary blood collection tube. So the advantage of the slower swinging bucket centrifuge head is that uh, it produces a straight, level blood cell interface, whereas angle head centrifuge heads cause platelets to adhere to the side of the table. So if the angle span tube is allowed to stand, the adherent platelets drift back into the plasma and release granule contents. So each hemostasis laboratory manager establishes the correct centrifugation speed and times for the local laboratory. Centrifugation must yield PPP from specimens with high initial platelet count. In the special hemostasis laboratory, the manager may choose a double spin approach. The primary tube is centrifuged using a swinging bucket centrifuge, and the plasma is transferred to a secondary plastic tube, which is labeled and centrifuged again. The double spin approach may be used to produce PPP with a plasma platelet count of less than 5,000 per UL, which some laboratory directors prefer for lupus anticoagulant testing and for preparation of frozen plasma. So the presence of greater than 10,000 platelets per UL in plasma affects clot-based test result. Platelets are likely to become activated in vitro and release the membrane phospholipid phosphatidylserine, which triggers plasma coagulation and neutralizes LA if present, interfering with LA testing. The hemostasis laboratory manager arranges to perform plasma platelet counts on coagulation plasmas at regular intervals to ensure that they are consistently platelet poor. Many managers select 10 to 12 specimens from each centrifuge every 6 months. So perform plasma platelet counts and document that their sample remain appropriately platelet poor, even if the initial platelet count is elevated. So number 4 is the specimen storage. Specimen for PT assays only may be held uncentrifuged at 18 to 24 degrees Celsius for up to 24 hours, provided the tubes remain closed. Likewise, specimen for PTT measurement may be held on centrifuge for up to 4 hours. However, specimens from patients receiving unfractionated heparin collected for PTT heparin monitoring must be centrifuged, and the supernatant PPP must be sampled or transferred within 1 hour to avoid false shortening of the PTT as platelet granule PF4 neutralizes the heparin. If the hemostasis test cannot be completed within the prescribed interval, the laboratory practitioner must immediately centrifuge this specimen. Advantages and disadvantages of detection method. Photo-optical endpoint detection may be confounded by icterus or lipemia, which erroneously prolongs the clotting time because the change in OD is masked by the color or turbidity of this specimen. Some coagulation instruments may be unable to employ synthetic reagents because they are more translucent than reagents used to optimize the endpoint detectors. So all coagulation tests that use clot-based endpoint need special considerations when interpreting results. There are many pre-analytical variables that affect coagulation function, and the integrity of the intercoagulation cascade is relevant to the final test results. So that these assays are not highly specific. This would not be a function of chromogenic or immunologic endpoint assays that do not rely on the cascade, but rather are single analytic specific. So I have here the summary of the advantages and disadvantages of each detection methodology. So first detection method is the mechanical. So the advantages are no interference from specimen lipemia or bilirubinemia or icterus. So ability to use specimen and reagent volumes as small as 25 microliter in some instruments, and also able to detect weak clots. So the disadvantages of mechanical method are reliance on the integrity of the intercoagulation cascade, inability to observe graph of clot formation. So second detection method is photo-optical. Advantages are good precision, increased test menu flexibility, and specimen quality information when multiple wavelengths are used. Ability to observe graph of clot formation with some instrumentation. So the disadvantages are interference from lipemia, hemolysis, bilirubinemia, and increased plasma proteins. This issue has been addressed by some manufacturers with reading from multiple wavelengths, and may not detect short clotting time owing to long lag phase, and also may not detect small friable clots that are translucent. The third one is the chromogenic. Advantages are ability to measure proteins that do not clot, more specific than clot-based assays, expanded menu option to replace clotable assays affected by pre-analytical variables such as heparin and the thrombin inhibitors. Also, most automated systems now have cost-effective chromogenic capabilities. And the disadvantages are limited wavelengths, capabilities of some instruments, and may need large test volume to be cost effective. The fourth is the immunologic advantages or ability to automate tests previously available only with manual, time-consuming methods such as enzyme-linked immunosorbent assays, expanded test menu capabilities. The disadvantages are limited number of automated tests available, higher cost of instruments and reagents, may need to have additional instruments available to run routine tests in laboratories without automated coagulation analyzers that have random access capabilities. And the last one is the nephelometric detection method. The advantage is ability to measure antigen-antibody reactions for proteins present is small concentration. Disadvantages are limited number of tests available, higher cost of reagents, and need for special staff training. And, and that's all. Thank you for watching. God bless us all. Thank you.